We're heading out today to hopefully try and answer a question which has been on my mind all year, and that is, what's better, hard plastics or soft plastics? We'll just keep it so steady speed. I don't want to go charging through it. Just feather that throttle back and forth and we'll be alright. It is a little bit lumpy. There's a big one. Here we go. Whee! Well, if you wanted to see what these boats are capable of, you got it right here. That's another big one. Let's go up it. Well, it is a bit lumpy out here, but if you have a look, I don't know how well my GoPro will show this. We are on the eastern side of this reef right now, and it's quite unpleasant. You won't really want to fish in this. It's quite hard to keep my direction. I'm just going to get washed all over the place. But just on the other side of this reef, it's like a different day. There's none of these white caps. It looks really quite calm. So we're not going to be fishing the east side of the bay today. We're going to go to the west. And this nice big island here is going to give us some shelter, and we'll hopefully be able to fish quite effectively. Now, every lure has its characteristics that set it aside from the others. I mean, you can sort of split them up into general categories of soft plastics, hard plastics, metals, and then within them you've got sort of like your hard plastics, for example. You've got your shallow divers, your stick baits, your surface lures, all have their use for different situations. Now, I really like shallow divers, ones like this Rapala Wrap Max here, for example. Now this is a 110mm lure, which is slow sinking, but the characteristic of this one that I'm choosing it today is this bib, this diving vane. Now this is angled as such to dive to a fair depth, about 2.5 meters, which makes it ideal for trolling. So what we're going to do is set the rods up here, stick them out about 50 meters behind the SIB, and just come in close to the shoreline and just troll along. I've got another Max Wrap here. This one's slightly smaller and in a slightly brighter colour. You've got orange and blue there, whereas that one's a more natural sort of greeny silver. These are actually freshwater patterns, but I think they will work quite well for the salt. So what we'll do is we'll get these out and then troll along at about 1.5 knots and just see if there's anything on the move. That's how these lures work quite well. Obviously you can cast and retrieve, but a slow troll around should cover that distance and perhaps find those fish. We're into our first fish of the day, and I can tell you it's a small one. I was just reeling in to check for some seaweed. Obviously that's one thing you don't want on your lures when you're trolling, and there's something pulling on the end. Well, I'm hardly surprised. A small pollock, they're always obliging when you're trolling. So there we go, that's our first fish of the day. Just a little kelp pollock on that Rapala there. That's a proper run on the trolled Rapala Max Wrap. I expect that's a bass, the way it's ran. It took the bigger one as well. We've just been cruising around the back of the island here. Oh, it feels like a decent fish. The problem is I'm over the top. Got another line there. Hell of a run. Oh. Yeah, I can see it on the surface. It looks silvery to me. I tell you what, that's not a bad fish right there. It's coming towards me at the moment, but has he caught on the other line? It looks like he has. That's the only problem trolling with 2 rods. You can end up in a real pickle like I have here. There we go. That's a nice fish right there. Our first bass of the day, our second fish of the day on the trolled hard plastic. So they're winning at the moment. He's just going a bit mental. I think it's because he didn't fight much towards the end. He had his run and that was it. Just having a look on the sounder here. There's a few little marks popping up. good sign there are fish around, especially when you see them like that in the water. That to me looks like bass. All things considered with the depth and the type of structure that we're over there. What I'm doing is I'm just coming up into this little area here. It's almost like a flat really. You can see that there's some reef over there. Well, I hope you can anyway. And you've got a sort of sandy, patchy reef all around here. Tide pushes through. Well, as you can see, come in a bit now. We're only in 3.5 meters of water, mind, but there's a lovely bit of wind pushing us through this gap here. I'm going to try that crazy paddle tail, just on a medium retrieve. You know, the sort of drift and a slow retrieve will keep that lure working at the optimal depth for this sort of area. Hopefully there might be a few bass pushing through. It's a little bit late in the tide perhaps. It's almost slack, but it's worth having a go, isn't it, to see if there's any knocking around. But that paddle tail should be working perfectly right now. We don't want to let it sink at all because, oh, see, I don't know if that was the bottom or a fish then. We don't want to let it sink at all because it will just snag up, but on a steady retrieve it should work at a nice depth. You can always bring the rod tip up a little bit just to keep it a little bit higher in the water. It is quite shallow at the moment. There we are, in on the soft plastic. That seems bassy to me. It was nipping it, just nipping it. I was wondering if it was actually hitting the bottom. It was this fish just nipping it, and then I thought I'll keep going, steady retrieve. And this actually feels like a fairly decent fish. As I was saying earlier, you come out in these months not expecting to catch a lot of fish, but to catch the better fish sometimes. So it's just kiting in the tide. It's not actually that big. It felt like it though. You know, it's just sort of kiting and it's putting up a resistance. Yeah, it's only a schoolie, mine, but small fish, smaller than the last. So hard plastics are winning on size, but there you have it on the paddle tail there. Slip her back. Try for another one. So we know that they're taking both lures now, and we know that they're around. What we want to try and do now is find the better fish. I have a feeling that lure there will find the bigger fish today. Right, I've put the crazy paddle tail well away because we've had enough schoolies on it for the time being, and then I've switched over to what I would probably call hard plastic, although it's sort of a hard plastic metal hybrid. But the body of this fish power tail is sort of like a metal composite of some sort. I'm not really sure what it's made from, and then it's got this plastic plate on the back, so it has sort of the castability and the sort of sink rate of a metal, but the sort of action of a hard plastic, which I really like. And that's in quite a nice colour there, that sort of like whitey dark blue. And I'm just going to work it the exact same way as I did with the power tail, and we'll see if it does as well. I was half tempted to put on a surface lure, like an IMO salt skimmer. See if that would find anything, but I thought I'd try the power tail first. I do have quite a lot of faith in it, and just see how it does. Well, it didn't take long for the power tail to claim a fish. This feels like a half decent one. I don't know, it could just be the case that it's kiting in the tide again, a small schoolie kiting in the tide, but it hit it really nicely and it does feel like it's staying deep. Tighten that drag up a touch. Could be better than the ones that we've had on the soft plastic so far. That wind is really howling. I hope you can hear me all right. It's It's never easy to film on days like today. There's a lot going on, but I try my best for you. It's coming up now. Again, it's just sort of kiting in the tide. It's not a bad fish. I think it's better than the ones we were catching on the soft plastics earlier. I had a few suspicious knocks that I expect were smaller fish swiping at it, but this one just slammed it. Again, not a big fish, just kiting in the tide like that other one was. I'd love to know what a 5-pounder goes like. There we go, on that power tail, just in the lip there. Lovely. Well, let's go with the surface lure then. The I'm a salt skimmer in a nice blue silver with red belly, and I've got singles on here. I just thought I'd give them a go. If we miss a lot of bites, then I'll go back to trebles, as it can be quite difficult to get hookups with surface lures sometimes. But I just want to give this one a go. We're pretty much on dead low tide, and it's really shallow in here now, so I'm just going to skip this surface lure along. Just walk the dog ever so slowly with it. We're still moving a lot because of the wind, but the tide's pretty much stopped now. On dead low. And I just want to see if I get any follows, any hits on the surface. It would be surprising to me really in late December to get good hits on a surface lure, but I just thought I'd give it a go, show you guys, see if it can be done. I'm wondering if that single hook is a little bit too big for it. The way that it's skipping across there is a little bit skew whiff, but that's half fishing, isn't it? Experimenting to see what works. I just wanted to see if I would get any hits. So that's the most exciting part, isn't it, about fishing with surface lures, watching that splash and slap behind it, just knowing that there's a bass chasing it. But it seems to be schoolies around here at the moment. You will get schoolies on surface lures, but I usually clip one on when I want to get a bigger fish. If I know there's bass there and I'm struggling on the soft plastics and they're just getting pestered by smaller fish, usually a surface lure will sort the bigger ones out, in my previous experience fishing this mark anyway. But this one looks like it's not quite working right with those big singles. I don't want to go too small on the singles, because then you really do drop your hook up rate. But I've got a bit too ambitious with them really. Just a slow walk the dog. We are really not in a lot of water at the moment, so if there's any bass, you'll see it. Yep, there we go. Yep, they're here. That one wasn't messing around, was it? It just came up and whacked it. Ideal. No worries about the hookups there either. That was just straight away slam. And what's nice about that is it's going to make it really easy for me to unhook, because that's only a tiny fish. Yeah, only a really small fish, but on the surface lure in December, schoolie on a surface lure in December, something's not quite right here, is it? I'm just going to slip my finger in there so he doesn't flap around, and that just pops out. So much easier than a treble. I don't want to do these guys harm, do I? No one does. Well, this is interesting. I changed over to a Imer hound, the lure I was using earlier, and I've hooked into something on the edge of this bit of reef here. I think it could be a pollock. It's a heavy fish. It's definitely the biggest one I've had today. What is it? No, it's a bass. It's a bass, but it's a decent one. Yeah, that's a half decent fish as far as today's stamp goes. Oh, These are in. I'm not going to worry about the net. There we go. That's a nice fish there. As I was saying, as far as today's standard's gone, that's a good fish. Very good fish on the I'm a Hound glide there. On that single, I just didn't feel confident with the way the surface lure was working, the salt skimmer. So I've switched over to that shallow diver. Ouch. They're not easy on you, are they, these bass? Look at that. That's a lovely fish for December. Chuff with that. That could be the biggest one so far today. Definitely the most beautiful. Possibly the best fighting. Just in the corner of the lip there. Quite like these new singles. Less hassle for me as well. There we go. Well, I wasn't able to show you quite what those black minnows are capable of. It's just all over the place, the wind, the drift. There's not many fish there, not that I can see on the sounder anyway. But I'll take this as an opportunity to show you just what these SIBs are made of when it comes to riding chop like this. And all they really do is just sit on the top of it. There's no slapping or banging, it's actually quite nice. You can have a bit of fun with it. I'll ride up the back of this wave. Pretty cool. I'm really not moving around a whole lot right now considering the sea state. Ready? That was pretty fun, that was. Well, I couldn't find a better fish out in the deep water, but I think I might have found one here in the shallows. I came back, I was just having no fun at all out there, and I'm into fish straight away in the little alleyway bit here. It's not huge, but it's not a decent, it's not a half bad one. Yeah, just smashing it. There seems to be quite a few around here. I'm really hoping that there might be a bigger one. I think this one's probably over the 42 centimetre mark, but it's no 5-pounder, that's for sure. They absolutely love those crazy paddle tails. There we go. Tell you what, people, I think that's the biggest one we've had so far today. That is a stunning bass. That's a stunning bass. So the last one I think went about 46 centimetres. That was on the hard plastic. That's the last decent one we had. Try and get this one under control and get a measurement out of him. Yeah, so that's 50 pretty much on the nose, but what I do want to take into account is how stunning that fish is. I mean, it didn't get much better than that, does it? Beautiful fish on the crazy paddle tail. There it is. He's just spat it out. One of them. My lure of the season, my lure of the year, probably the lure of this trip. It doesn't get much better than that. Sandy's imitation, folks. I am not associated with fish at all, but I'd urge you to go and get some, because they'll catch you good fish. Well, that has been one hell of an interesting day, I think. Comparing the use of hard plastics versus soft plastics, just today alone we've seen that, I mean, really for me, the soft plastics have been a clear winner. The crazy paddle tail caught more fish than any other lure, and it caught the bigger fish. It did start off looking like the hard plastics were going to take the win, but I've got to hand it to those soft plastics. They catch fish. And I think really that has been the story of most of this year for me, and my bass fishing in particular, is in other years when I've focused more on hard plastics, shallow divers and surface lures, this year I've been quite committed to the soft plastics, particularly that crazy paddle tail, and I've done very well on them. And I've usually fished them more than I would the hard plastics at most spots. but they all have their places and they all have their days, and there's days where you will catch bigger and better fish on a surface lure than you would on a paddle tail like that. I can guarantee you. It's just about finding the right conditions, and today they like the sound limitation. It was that simple. But it was an interesting day out. The SIB has had a battering out there today, so have I. I got soaking wet on the way back in. A wave just swamped over me, and yeah, it got me soaking wet. That's why I've got a nice woolly hat on now. I'm back on shore. But yeah, it's actually quite nice now. The wind's dropped off and the skies have gone blue. It wasn't like that when I was up there 15 minutes ago, but hey ho. Thank you for watching this video. This is probably going to be it now from me, just for this year. Yeah, I will probably be out a bit in the new year, at the start of the new year anyway, a bit of bait fishing, but I think this is really it. This is my last chance to loon for the open coast bass fishing, and it was cold out there and it was difficult, but we made the most of it. We got some fish and we had a good time, but I will see you in the new year, of course. Lots of exciting things planned. Thank you very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. I really hope that you leave a like, that you comment, get involved. Always nice to hear that people are enjoying the videos, and subscribe to the channel to see more videos. Thanks for watching. Cheers.